good. This was an awesome conversation, Natasha. I took a lot of notes. Really resonated with a lot of what you said, and I have a couple questions. Um, you started off, you're talking about how women feel inadequate, and I know you asked Dave, but I can say I've definitely felt that before, where I feel inadequate, especially since my wife has started working, and I'm at home more, so I'm taking the kids to school. And you mentioned like having a bad morning dropping the kids off, and oh my gosh, I've so been there, and it totally like I'm trying to get back into a better mood and not have my day painted with that or carrying that through the day. But that's definitely something I've encountered just in doing that kind of thing and feeling, gosh, am I not a good father? Am I not a good parent? Am I not? Why is this happening? And I really love what Dave has said this, but Liz said it pretty interesting earlier. She said, or somebody said this, you're never happier than you are grateful. Is that you, Natasha?
That's a good quote.
I wrote that down. That was so good. I had to write that down. Yeah. That is so good. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I put that quote. I quoted that for a reason, Rex, because I agree with you. I think that the reason it resonates is because it's a statement of truth. We all are seeking for this happiness. It's declared by our founding fathers that we'll have life, liberty, and this pursuit of happiness. And as we perpetually, seek after this, this realization that we'll never be happier than we are grateful is just such a profound reminder. And it does resonate. I have found that intentionally practicing gratitude literally rewires my brain. That every evening when I sit down to write down, a statement of gratitude, how I have seen the divine in my life, that I know I'm going to be doing that every single night. And so what my eyes are watching for every single day throughout the entire day has changed, right? I sure there's still all the bad things and the hard mornings and the mistakes I make as a parent and, the laundry and the dishes and the phone calls from the principal, all of that is still there. But my eyes are deliberately watching for things to be thankful for. And it just abounds. Like I can't even keep track because there's so much to be thankful for.
That's incredible. I like how you tied that in with the founding fathers, and that's so true. The pursuit of happiness. And I swear you've just unlocked something for me about, or connected two things I just didn't even think about was, being grateful is what's going to make you happy. Enjoying and appreciating what you're doing or what you have or what's around you is going to just increase that. And you're saying like rewire and just make you more grateful and more happy. That's profound. Mm-hmm. I mean,
and she lives it, Rex. She lives it. She's one of the happiest people I know is Natasha. So she's grateful, but it shows the happiness.
Well, I remember interviewing you a couple years ago down in Nephi, and your enthusiasm was infectious. So that's awesome. And I expect this to transcend when this particular episode drops. But wow, thank you so much for sharing that. That's just like that just blew, a supernova went off in my head. So.
And that does not happen often, does it?
No. No, this is probably the second one. That was really good. That was just incredible. I like how like I said, you tied it together with, because that's such a foundational part of American culture is the whole pursuit of happiness. And so many people look for happiness outside. You really have to generate it, like you say, from inside, from just being grateful. Everything outside is not going to get there or fill that unless you're grateful. It was just great. Let me see what else. I had some other. I want to ask, how did you discover this issue with women feeling inadequate, and what drove you to help people?
Great question, Rex. And initially it was because of my personal experience that I just, as you described, would have a really rough morning, and I would just be overwhelmed by this feeling of, and sometimes it's not a rough morning, and sometimes it's a rough 3 weeks or a rough 3 months, right? Where you just can't find connection with this, angry teenager that's just belligerent, and work stresses are piling up, and I'm like, I'm just not enough. Like I don't have what it takes to do this job of being a good mom, right? I'm just not sufficient. And so, my own personal experience drove me to learn more about it. Like, am I the only one having these feelings? Where are these feelings coming from? Are there resources that can help me not feel like this all the time? And so that desire led me to learn that I'm actually one of almost all mothers that feel this. This is very common, and made me want to be able to help people. And the reality is that I think this feeling, these feelings of inadequacy are timeless. Like, I think all mothers forever, but I think it's a little bit more prevalent in our society today. And I didn't get to talk about this like in our regular recording, but one of the things that happens just mentally when we're scrolling through social media is like this
comparison,
accumulation effect. Yeah, the comparison, but also this, like, when I sit down for like one scrolling session, right? Or if you will, and I see, I scroll down and I see one mom hiking with her kids, and then I scroll down, I see a mom at the gym, and then there's a mom doing puzzles with her kids, and then a mom laying tile in her kitchen, and then a mom making cookies. And I close that app, and in my mind, like, even though I just saw, 6 different moms living 6 different lives with 6 different sets of strengths and weaknesses, cognitively, that was one experience. And I, in my mind, I frame that as one mom, a good mom, right? A good mom does these things. And it's one person with one, because I just have one experience, right? And so I think the effect is compounded by social media, that we, scroll through these mom blogs and through these DIY pages. And it's like, whoa, my brain doesn't separate those into these different people. Because,
yeah, why am I not laying tile while I'm hiking to the gym
yes,
with my kids?
Precisely.
At the same time. That's really well put. That, again, you speak in such a way that it's very easy to identify with and empathize with and feel like, yeah, I go through that when I'm going through, even just me scrolling through. Why are these? They're so happy. They're wonderful. Look at all these wonderful things they're doing, and I'm not doing. That's so well put. And not to, what's the old saying, Dave? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so well put. Did you kind of create a whole program to address this issue, Natasha?
I did. Through Arise workshops, I do motherhood workshops very specific to these issues, and we just take it head on and talk about our honest feelings.
Do you have you seen like it just like the light bulb go off over people's heads when you're in these workshops and you're helping these people?
Yeah, that's what keeps me going, Rex. That's the exciting part. That's the payday, right? Is when people are learning it. And the cool thing is that the power comes by bringing women together and helping them feel supported by one another and having this shared experience. And then, man, you add some research-based tools in there and take a strengths-based approach. And, it's like you're taking this weight of inadequacy and just lifting it. And it's almost visible.
Do you have any men in the course?
I do courses for men, but I haven't developed inadequacy courses specifically for men.
Liz, this earlier you guys were talking, you were asking Dave if he ever feels inadequate. And he was like, oh, I just worry about the game and stuff. But Liz, do you ever encounter men clients of yours that ever feel this way or deal with this?
You know, where men seem to struggle the most is when their wives are unhappy. That's when they feel that they have that kind of big L on their forehead, right? Loser. It's like, maybe I'm just not cut out for marriage. No matter what I do, my wife is not happy. And the wife's happiness is fundamental to a man. So I guess that's where I see it show up most.
I have to say that's very true. I agree. Wow, thanks for sharing that. Oh, you were saying something else, Natasha, that really resonated with me. You were talking about validation. And as you were talking about it, I was like, does validation, like when you're saying like the example was like, oh, it's hot, I feel hot. Well, it's not hot in here. Like in validating somebody. Do you think that validation helps with connection between couples?
I think for sure. I think the research bears that out, that when people feel validated, it strengthens that connection. You feel more connected. It's why we automatically kind of seek for that, even when we just meet strangers. Like we're looking for something that we have in common, or something that, when I meet you for the first time, Rex, I'm like, oh, you lived in Florida. Like, I've been to Florida. Right. Then I try to find this kind of connection, and it's so humid there. And I kind of validate this. Then we have this kind of connection. We're not strangers anymore. And so
a common experience.
Yeah. I think any kind of intentional validation really does this kind of opening and softening, allows us to really connect in meaningful ways. And that goes beyond marriage.
It can be very isolating too. If you're, that one example is like, oh, I'm hot. Well, it's not hot in here. Then you're like, oh my gosh, am I the only one who feels hot? Well, okay, I'll be quiet. But if, you say something to that extent, or, oh, you live in Florida, it's so humid, there's bugs the size of cars. Yeah. Both are, a shared experience and a connection there. Okay.
And important to recognize also that validation does not necessarily mean agreement. Like, I don't have to agree with you to validate you. To validate that your feelings are real and your feelings are yours, and that's valid, doesn't necessarily mean I agree with that.
That's fascinating. Can you give an example of that?
So on a simple side, like with the climate, right? When my son's like, oh my gosh, it's so hot in here. And I'm like, it's not hot. It's only 70 degrees, right? Rather than disagreeing with him or invalidating his feelings, like, oh, that's interesting. Why are you feeling hot right now? Right? Oh, it's because I just worked out, or because I'm wearing a sweater, or because whatever, right? I'm hormonal, whatever. Like, it's so, validating a feeling, asking a question, so when your wife comes and is like, I am such a failure and I don't even know what to do. I'm just not enough for all of this, rather than, you're not failing. Like, you're a great mom, right? And so it's like, oh, validating feelings and then asking questions. Why do you feel that way? What's contributing to that? And so it doesn't mean I agree. Yep, you're a failure. Validating doesn't mean you're agreeing. It just means that you're validating.
I like that. Rather than be like, oh, no, you're not a failure. Just trying to bandage a wound or something is, oh my gosh, why do you feel that way? What happened today? Oh, I'm so sorry. Wow. Okay. Thank you. That's another really good one. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, I'm sure you both know this stuff so well.
I might just add that the opposite of that is one of the quickest ways for disconnection and feeling rejection and isolated is coming back and not validating or not listening. Kind of those bids for connection that Gottman talks about, ignoring it, or man, I had such a rough day today. Don't even tell me about it. You have no idea. Instead of validating it, does that make sense? So
you think you had a hard day, right? That one. You think you had a hard day? Let me tell you about it.
Yeah, that's right. You think, that's right. Yeah. So it's compassion is validation, and then that kind of that rejection or coming back at someone and disagreeing with them and not validating them can leave them feeling hollow and isolated, rejected, and disconnected.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that with one of my parents. where it was like, oh, you think your day is bad? Let me tell you about my life.
Let me tell you about my life.
Yeah.
I can always Trump, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I've been through that, but this is it's so good to have these conversations and label these things, because it's validating for me just to hear this kind of stuff. I can only imagine it's going to be validating for our listeners who are maybe going through something similar. Like, yes, that's validation. That's it. Because sometimes I'll, if I'm talking to my wife, I'll struggle for the word I'm looking for to explain what I'm feeling or experiencing. And that can really make it difficult to solve an issue, or at least get some resolution. Or, Dave, you said this before, like conflict is never really resolved. It's,
we talk about managing it.
Yeah. And if I can't put the words to what I'm feeling or experiencing, there's nothing. You're just left with, okay, I'm still frustrated and this isn't working. But to be able to put these words to it and identify with these experiences is just amazing. And I think the work you're doing, Natasha, is awesome. Like I said, your enthusiasm is infectious, and it really helps people understand and identify with what you're talking about and work with it.
Thank you, Natasha. I don't have the words to acknowledge you enough for being a mother and for working with this select group of women. The responsibility and the role that you have is just incredible. It's powerful. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for
the
being
work
on.
that you do. I have recommended so many of these episodes to people that come to me, so I just appreciate your effort.
Thank you. You're kind. You're kind. We'll be back in touch, Natasha. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a few minutes to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. When you hit the like button and leave a comment, your feedback helps us improve the show. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and connect with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and on Facebook at Stronger Marriage. Be sure to share with us what topics you want us to explore or what you loved about today's episode. If you want even more resources to improve your relationship connection, visit our website at strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producers Rex Polanis and Alexis Alcott and the team at Utah State University. And you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission